Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome to my end of month recap video for February 2024. In this video, I'll share a few general life updates, decks I've received this month, and unlike last month, I do have something to show here. I'll share the decks that I've worked with the most this month, the books that I've read this month, and my thoughts about them, and a look at the state of my to explore slash deck wish list. So, in terms of kind of general life stuff for February, it was a fairly uneventful month. I was just going to work and doing my usual things. I did take a couple of vacation days this month. I mostly did that because every year around this time of year, I get a nudge at work to take some vacation days because we're kind of not supposed to carry too many forward into the next fiscal year. I don't think they would ever actually take them away from me, but I do tend to get the kind of work-life balance talk nudge a little bit at this time. So I took a few Fridays off and did really nothing with them at all, which I think was a good decision. Just took days to like do laundry and rest. Hung out with a friend on one of the days. Nothing too eventful, just time off to kind of have a leisurely time, which was good. I did have a medical procedure in February, just about a week ago now, or a week and a half ago. I'm filming this on the last day of February. It was a routine procedure, planned, like nothing is wrong health-wise, but it was one that involves some degree of discomfort and kind of recuperation time. So I had that to deal with. I'm glad that it's over. I had been dreading it. It is over. So that was a good thing to get out of the way in February. And I've spent the last week or so of February just looking forward to my birthday, which folks know is in early March. So I'm looking forward to going to a concert and seeing some old friends and of course some birthday treats, which I will share, as that happens, I'm sure. In terms of the decks that I have received this month, I did receive some decks this month. I have three to show you. I also did a little bit of shopping, which will come out in, the end of what I've checked off my wish list that are not here just yet. So the first deck that I'll show that I received, I actually got as a very kind, generous gift, and that is the Dirt Gems Oracle. And this is a formerly indie deck that is now mass market with Hachette Book Group, who also did, I think, the Queer Tarot. And this is really cool. It hasn't been in my house for too long. It arrived like less than a week ago. It has a good guidebook with lots of detail and a full page for every card, as well as a full color image. It has these beautiful, front and back covers inside there. It has some example spreads in it. It has a suit system, which I'm not sure yet to what extent will inform my working with this deck, but it is there. And I was really excited. I was really excited to be offered this deck, and it comes inside a tuck box, inside the big box. I was really excited about this because this had been, on and off my radar and on my wish list, and I think I had been kind of letting my um, lack of plant knowledge intimidate me a little bit. But this deck is gorgeous in person, and I will say, for a mass market deck, the card stock is really nice. The cards are a nice size, the colors are great, and so far the book seems quite good as well. I feel like this will be a great first plant oracle deck for me. I've never had one, unless you count something like the Ogham, which of course have trees represented, but that's not what I think of as like a plant oracle. So I'm really excited about this. I don't know a ton about herbs or herbalism. The fact that I have a lot of allergies sometimes makes me nervous about things like things like this. But this feels like a really great deck, and I'm looking forward to working with it. I think it's going to look really good with a lot of tarot decks in my collection. I can imagine this alongside like a black and white deck, like many queens might look cool with this. I could imagine incorporating this into a reading with an animal deck, maybe. I think this could easily be a kind of pick one card and read the book, kind of daily draw or something like that, or draw at the end of a tarot reading for sure. I'm definitely going to be book dependent for a little while, probably a lot of while, not a little while. But I'm really excited. This is beautiful deck, and it has gilding that is really the kind of gilding that I really like, that is matte. So it's not, I don't feel like it's as prone to chipping, this kind of matte gilding. I just think it looks really good. There's the backs. So thank you so much for sending me this. You know who you are. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited. I'll put those there. I also got just yesterday, so everything is still in order. I just got yesterday a Kickstarter that I backed in 2023, last year. I'm going to end up with a bit of a haul accidentally, kind of between now and mid-March, because some Kickstarters are shipping that I didn't necessarily think were going to all ship at the same time, and I've done a little bit of birthday shopping, so that's happening. I got my copy of the Ink Witch Tarot deck, and for folks who are unfamiliar with this, this is the same creator who did the Endless Oracle, which I love. I wanted to back this specifically because I love that Endless Oracle. And Eric got me on this campaign. I initially had backed for just the deck, and then I saw Lisa Papez's video talking about the expansion packs for this deck. So that happened. And these are still in the plastic. I want to, in a fairly organized way, go through and do exactly what Lisa Papez did in her walkthrough of this deck, where she went through the core deck of, I think it's 80 cards, and to choose from the core cards versus the expansion packs, which ones I'm going to use to make up my full deck of cards. So it does come with a couple of extra cards, two different witch cards. There's one, and here's the other one. So slightly different palette, slightly different kind of composition, but similar theme. And then there's a artist card there. So the expansion packs have, some of them have gender neutral court cards. They have some alternate artwork. So I want to go through and, put all of these in kind of order and then go through the deck and see what I want to substitute in and out. I may film that. I think I'll probably do a review of this deck. I really love his other deck, so I'm I'm excited about this. I'm very happy. And the last deck I got this month was a bit of an impulse buy, I will be honest. And there might have been a little bit of kind of FOMO involved because I knew that this deck was not going to be in print forever. But it's one that I saw a friend have and that I really liked the looks of, and so I decided to go for it. And that is the Forest Lore Tarot, and this is by Valeda Oracle. It is a animal and tree based deck with particularly kind of UK species represented. So all of the majors have trees on them. The air suit, which is swords, in this deck has birds. The water suit has water animals. The earth suit has mammals. And where did the last suit go? The wands have insects. And this deck just really stood out to me in terms of how thoughtfully this is put together. So it does something that I really like, which is color code the suits. You can see the backgrounds there. And not only are the suits color coded, but each of the suits goes from a kind of lighter color background at the ace down to a darker and more intense background color of the same color in the later court cards, which I think gives a really cool kind of visual when you're looking at a large reading. These are the backs of the cards. This deck is produced in an ecologically conscious way. I don't remember absolutely everything that the website said, but certainly it, has been put together in a way that the creator was thinking about environmentally friendly kind of production options and packaging and paper and ink and things like this, which I look for really actively, particularly in a nature-based deck. In any deck, I think there should be ecological considerations in the production, but any kind of nature or environmental themed deck in particular, I want to see this. And the book also, is very substantial, which I'm really looking forward to looking into more because something that stood out to me about this deck and made me get it, to be honest, is the fact that in the majors, it is very, very clear to me that this creator knows the Ogham. So we have Blackthorn for the tower there. The Fool is Birch, which is Baith in the Ogham, a tree that's associated with beginnings. Judgment is Elder. And this isn't North America specific, as I mentioned, but a lot of the species in here are very familiar to me. So this is one that, watching walkthroughs of it, I could feel like, okay, these are associations that make sense to me. These are familiar neighbors to me in many cases. I get why the pairings are the way they are in a lot of cases. So this is one that I think will be really fun to read with, and I'm really excited about. I will say there's one thing that I'm not in love with this one. It is this. They're very thin, but I've been shuffling it and they seem to, get back into shape okay. So I'm hoping that they are durable, and I do appreciate that they're printed in an ecologically conscious way. So that can override a lot for me in terms of things like cardstock. If I know that it is environmentally friendlier, it goes a long way. So those are the decks that I received. Decks that I have worked with the most this month. I didn't grab them all because they're sitting on my table and some of them are kind of laid out in a reading, but I've been reading with the Gentle Tarot a lot. I hit a kind of spot in February where, I was dealing with some of this had to do with, like late January, early February. I dealt with some logistical and not quite bureaucratic, but we'll say logistical um, challenges with booking and accessing the medical procedure that I needed. And that affected my, you know, mental well-being in ways that I didn't quite expect it to. So the Gentle Tarot is what I pulled off my shelf when I was just feeling like, fuck, like I don't feel well. I do not feel well supported. I do not feel well cared for. Um, Everything went fine. Like the procedure went fine. Um, Ultimately, it was like the lead up and the booking and the scheduling and the, knowing what to do in terms of prep, like that was really challenging. So the Gentle Tarot was a good supporter through that. I've been using Duffomantic a lot. I've been using Many Queens for my moon phase readings, and I have been using the Mirror Oracle by Amrit Brar, who's the creator of the Marigold Tarot. This deck is really cool, and this deck does something which I think is interesting that I'm going to include. I think in a future video I might do something about this. This deck includes astrological concepts like the zodiac, like one for each sign. There's a card for each sign, but it isn't an astrology deck. So there's Libra. I think that this is really interesting, shuffling in the astrological concepts in with like other kinds of concepts and doing a reading. And I think that this is a deck that really can be used on its own. To me, this is substantive enough to do a spread just with this deck. I really like it. Maybe I'll do a review of this deck. We'll see. But I definitely want to do a video about astrology in decks. Not so much like tarot correspondences, but astrology themed decks and things like that. So maybe I'll do it and this will feature. I am a big Amrit Brar fan. I love this deck. I got it pretty recently. The second that I saw, the second that I saw on Etsy that she had added it to her shop, I was, I was in. It was like, I don't think Etsy has the like Insta buy button, but I, they might as well have because this was on my radar and I was really excited to get it. So that's the decks that I've been working with. The brand new decks, the Dirt Gems, the Ink Witch, and the Forest Lore, all arrived really towards the end of February. So Forest Lore I've played around with a bit. I've shuffled. I've done a couple of readings with. I haven't read the full guidebook yet. I do probably intend to with that one. I feel like there's a little bit of druid spirit in that Forest Lore tarot that I appreciate. The Ink Witch came yesterday night. So I've gone through the main deck and made sure that all the cards are there, and that's it. So that one I don't have much to say about, but I will share my thoughts later. And Dirt Gems I've been shuffling and looking at and admiring for maybe a week and doing, a one card kind of thing, but mostly I was working with other decks because these ones came so recently. So that explains that. Books I have read this month. I am really enjoying, I will say, the rhythm of making a TBR ahead of the month and then sharing the books in the end of month recap. So I put my March TBR up a couple of days ago. I think that planning the month ahead reading, not in a strict way where there's no possibility of changing my mind or something, but having a bit of a plan, I think will help me have a better reading experience. And February is exemplary of this. I read 10 books, which total 2,920 pages total, which is more pages than January actually. And my average star rating on, I'm using a spreadsheet actually, so the spreadsheet calculates it. But my average star rating is 4.4 out of 5, which is awesome, I think. Anything above a 4, I feel pretty happy. You know, being that close to 4.5, I feel there was quite a few fives this month. So I'm very happy with that. And the bulk of my reading for this past month has been for Blackathon, the Black History Month readathon hosted by Jesse of Jesse on YouTube. I've participated in this readathon before. It's always a great time. So this really was the kind of structure for my book choices for February. I only read one book that wasn't for one of the prompts. So that's that. So going through the books that I chose, and I did stick with my TBR, I didn't change my mind anywhere. I read The Grub Hunter by Amir Tag El-Sir for the book by a Sudanese author prompt, and this was really funny. And this is a kind of book that I feel like if it wasn't for a readathon and a prompt that prodded me to specifically look for a Sudanese author, and I was interested in a kind of book set in Sudan as well. If I wasn't specifically looking for this, this is a book that I probably never would have come across. And I thought The Grub Hunter was really funny. It follows uh, a character who loses his leg in an accident. He was an investigator, and so he can't work anymore in that line of work. So he decides to write a novel. And he has never really read a novel. He has certainly never written anything like that before. He's written surveillance reports. And so he's trying to figure out how to write inspired by his experiences and what he's observing without writing a surveillance report. And he, you know, gets into some misadventures along the way, we'll say. Very, very funny. I really liked this a lot. For the prompt, read a book with black, red, and green on the cover. I read The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope. This has been on my radar for a while, mostly since my friend Katie Flowers gave this 5 stars, reading historical fiction. So I knew she really liked it. Our tastes are kind of, sometimes our tastes really converge and we both love something or both really don't like something. And then sometimes we have very opposite or very different takes on books that we've both read. So this is Katie Flowers loving a book doesn't mean that I'm going to love a book, but we've also both loved many books, that we've read in her Blossom Book Club together and talked about, right? So I didn't know much about this book other than that it was a historical fantasy set in a kind of Harlem Renaissance inspired Washington, D.C., and that there's a heist involved. And I won't say too much more about it than that in terms of the plot so as not to give things away, but this was great. The fantasy element centers around kind of people making deals with spirits or different kinds of spirits in order to get something that they want, like some kind of ability that they want, but there's always a kind of downside to making that deal as well, or some kind of restriction or limitation on the person. So quite different than a lot of fantasy that I've read. I also didn't realize going into this book how historical it would be, in the sense that much of the supporting cast and kind of people showing up in, various references in the book are actual historical figures. So I really liked how that was represented and how the book was constructed. I know Leslie Penelope has other books, and based on this one, I would absolutely read more from her. If somebody would make The Monsters We Defy into television or into a film, I would be really into that. I think that this would be really good, really, really good kind of fantasy period um, kind of television series. I think it would be great. So that's somebody should pick it up. That's what I'm saying. Okay, the next prompt was read a book with 2 or more POVs. And for this, I chose Convergence Problems by Wole Talabi, who I've read before. And Convergence Problems is a collection of short stories, some of which I had read in other publications. So I think I'd read 2 of the stories. And this collection is the kind of short story collection that I really like to come across. There's no filler. Like most, really any short story collection, inevitably, I feel like any reader is going to like some stories more than others. And that's true of this for sure, but I feel like there was nothing, there was no story in there that I like wish wasn't there. There was no story in there that I felt like was just there to pad the page count. Like these are all um, good stories, I would say. They are um, they're futuristic, I would say. They are, you know, science fictional, and I really just think that they're fantastic. So I would check out Convergence Problems if you're into short fiction and short science fiction in particular. I think it just came out. This was an advanced copy for me, so I think it just came out. For the prompt, read a 2024 release, I could have double counted Convergence Problems, but I don't like double counting on Blackathon because I always have such a good reading month. So for 2024 release, I chose Kinning by Nisi Shawl. I just finished this. Nisi Shawl is the author of the book Everfair, which is a kind of steampunk airship historical fantasy fiction set in the context of the Congo as occupied very, very violently by Belgium. And this colonial occupation being overthrown. Right? And Everfair is been out for quite a while. I feel like Everfair probably came out 2015, 2016, and I read it a number of years ago. Kinning is a sequel. I almost think Kinning could stand alone. I'm never one to say that I think a sequel can stand alone because it's like, go read Everfair first is what I would say. I wouldn't say that there's any rationale for skipping it to skip to Kinning because both were really good. What I like about Kinning is it has a massive, massive diverse cast. Um, it even has some point of view characters that are not human, which is interesting. There's a monkey point of view at one point. It has a really well developed world that is historically informed, but diverges quite far from history, certainly. It has interesting technology, it has interesting magic, it has interesting kind of philosophical questions because the plot deals with kind of cultivating shared consciousness between people. I don't want to say too much to give it away, but cultivating this kind of radic shared consciousness for political purposes, which, thinking about kind of the spread of ideologies and things like this, very, very interesting. I can see how these books would not be for everyone in that they are very complicated. And there's definitely points in Kinning towards the end where I was like, what? Like, who is it talking about? I don't even know. But fabulous. I will read anything Nisi Shaw puts out. I think that they're fabulous, and I think that Kinning was very good. But I think that you should read Everfair first. For the prompt for Blackathon about reading a recommendation, so this could be like a Black BookTube recommendation or Bookstagram or kind of any of the social media contexts. I chose to read one that Jessie on YouTube recommended, which was The Final Strife by Sara El-Arifi. And this is the first book in a trilogy. I believe the whole trilogy is actually out at this point. The second one definitely is. And the third one is either out or coming out soon. Not sure. And this is a fantasy. It definitely has a kind of historical flavor to it, but I would not call it historical fiction. It's a fantasy novel. The protagonists are young women, for the most part, in a deeply stratified cultural context, who are looking to create massive political change in that context. Uh, it's definitely a book about revolution. And I liked this. I liked it a lot. I want to read the second book. I liked the magic system in this book. I liked the writing, I would say. I think it's a debut, and as a debut, it's impressive. I thought it was really well kind of thought out. I thought the pacing was good. Definitely kind of epic fantasy, which I like. Um, I do think it's a little bit halfway between YA and not. And so for some that this will be a fabulous thing because it's like, oh, crossover appeal. For me, as someone who doesn't read YA, there was parts of it very specifically in the interpersonal relationships and in how surface the main character's understandings of politics were that just like bugged me. But overall, I thought it was really good. I will happily read more. The themes and like some of the content definitely, I would say, are solidly adult fantasy. But some of the relationships and some of the way that the politics is talked about is, I would say, not. I think that there were some opportunities for some really interesting political questions that were not as fleshed out as they could have been. I'm hoping that in the second book and the third book even, with the characters maybe aging up a bit, that this will be something that doesn't bug me in books 2 and 3. So I did like The Final Strife. I'm glad that that was recommended to me. When I made my TBR, the one prompt that I had nothing for was to read a graphic novel or comic, and I asked for some suggestions. And I got a number of suggestions, all of which I have put on my want to read, um, digital list. Though graphic novels are something that I do not read digitally. I don't like the way that they look on the e-reader. I like them in paper. But what I ended up getting for my um, graphic novel pick is this box set of March by John Lewis. And this is a 3-book um, collection. You can see that they just keep getting longer, right? This is a 3-book collection. #1 New York Times and Washington Post bestseller, Coretta Scott King Book Award, and several other awards as well. So this is about Congressman John Lewis's life, uh, his growing up, and especially his work in the civil rights movement. And, a lot of really huge kind of events that comprise the history of the civil rights movement, John Lewis was there for and was centrally involved with. And I really liked this. I gave 5 stars to all 3. This definitely contributed to my high average stars for this month, because I think this is absolutely fantastic. I'm glad that I got the box set. You can buy them individually, but I figured I wouldn't just want to read about John Lewis's childhood and then be done, right? I wasn't sure where the demarcations were, so I'm glad that I got all of it. I do really like the way that the art is done. It is black and white. So you can see some of it there. Really, really well done. Definitely tough subject matter, as you would expect, in terms of police brutality, in terms of violence, um, including violence against children, hate crimes, and so on. I feel like these books do a really good job of, giving so much history in such like little space. Ultimately, like these could be twice as long. Uh, you get to learn a lot about different civil rights figures whose names I think will be familiar to a lot of people. But there's definitely a lot about their relationships and some of the different interactions that they had that I didn't know, even having read some about the civil rights movement before. I really liked how the books delve into some of the kind of philosophical and political challenges inside civil rights movement organizing in terms of kind of tensions around nonviolence, tensions around different kinds of, tactical leanings amongst different folks, and how different kind of events along the way changed different people's thinking. I thought that it was just so well done. So well done. 5 stars. I'm really happy to have this on my shelf. And since I got it, one other person, just my partner, has started reading it, and there's a bit of a queue of friends who want to borrow this. Like they're really beautiful. They're really well done. So definitely highly recommend those. Finally, the last prompt is to read a group book, and there were a couple to pick from, and I chose Vagabonds by Elagosa Oshunda. And this was, I don't know what I expected from Vagabonds. I knew that it was about um, mostly queer Nigerians and about kind of life on the margins in Nigeria in particular, particularly in the context of queer life, right? And I knew that it was something that some folks were talking about as a novel and others were calling short stories. For me, it skewed towards short stories. They were interconnected, but like not as much as you would think for a novel, we'll say. Uh, the writing in this is extraordinary. I highlighted so many things. I have gone back and just read my highlights because the author has such a profound way with words. And And some of the things that are being described, like internalized homophobia, for example, right, are are so perfectly captured in this book. It absolutely extraordinary. Like so good. Um, I did find it a little bit inconsistent in a similar way to how I would find any short story collection. Like some sections just intrigued me more than others, but the writing is extraordinary, and anything the author writes, I'm going to pick up. So that was a great uh, group group pick. And again, not necessarily one that I would have for sure come across if it wasn't picked as part of the readathon. So thank you so much to Jesse of Jesse on YouTube for putting together another fantastic Blackathon. I am excited for 2025. I read one book that was not for the readathon, and that was a book that I had sitting on my shelf already, and that was Your Body Is Not an Apology workbook by Sonia Renee Taylor. And I had read the book The Body Is Not an Apology before, years ago, and I had picked this up and never worked through it and never read it. I love The Body Is Not an Apology, the book, and this is a kind of companion workbook with a lot of space. I'm going to pick one that I didn't pick a section that I didn't do. So there's different sections to draw and write in here, and it has to do with bodily oppressions and body shaming, and beliefs about bodies that inform how we treat ourselves and how we treat each other, and the radicalism of self-love, of radical self-love. And I liked this. I think that the book is better. This one, just by virtue of being a workbook, has a lot less in it than the book does. So I would say that, if you're looking for something in terms of radical self-love, or if you're familiar with Sonia Renee Taylor's work online, she posts a lot of different videos, sharing her analysis of different current events and different issues and things like that. I would say to pick up the book before the workbook, because the book just has more in it. But I liked this. There were some parts of this that I found like hit in a particular sort of way, in a good way, that were supportive in areas that I needed. There were others, like particularly the kind of social media focused stuff, that really just didn't necessarily apply to me. Like going a day without being on Facebook is not something I need to challenge myself to do because I haven't been on that shit in years. So so inevitably some will be more relevant to each person than others, but overall good. And it has all these beautiful illustrations that I just really like. So I'm happy to have this on my shelf. I didn't fill out every activity, but I appreciated the ones that I did. So those are my books for February 2024. I had a fantastic reading month, and I'm excited for March books. Before I leave you, I will share the updates on the deck wish list and the deck to explore list. Some things have moved and many things have not. So, what is on the list right now? The Aquarius Rising Oracle, which is not out yet. That's Charlie Claire Burgess's next project. It's a playing card oracle, solidly on the list. The Inner Eye Oracle by Stephen Wright, playing card oracle, mass market. It's available. I will pick it up at some point. It's still on the list. I'm not going to pick it up until I'm doing playing card work, which I plan to do in Kelly Fitzgerald's playing card class later this year. So that's on the list, but for later. I have two decks by Nine Coins, Tishan, here on TarotTube. The Nine Coins Oracle, which is her own photography, and the Oracle of Simple Space, which is space themed. And I checked them off the list because I ordered them for myself for a birthday gift. So they're not here yet, but they've shipped. They're coming. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I'm going to share them when they get here. I'm very excited. I'm still curious to see the Sherwood Oracle by John Matthews and Mark Ryan and Yvonne Gilbert. It's not out. There's like one picture available to see. I have no idea. I'll probably end up not getting this, but I want to see it. I crossed off the Mountain Dream Tarot. I think it's cool historically, but I know that I won't use it. I am curious to see the Deviant Moon Oracle when it comes out on US Games. Not saying I'm going to get it, but I do like the tarot, so I'll have a peek at it. I still have the Citadel Oracle that I'm thinking about. It's fantasy themed. I don't know if I'm going to get it or not, but it's still sitting there on the list. Minimalist Oracle, still on the list to look at, still thinking about it. Inner Ecology Oracle, still thinking about it. I don't know if this is available yet. It was a Kickstarter that's going to be available. It reminds me a lot of Roots and Wings, which I don't have. I like the looks of it. Magical Nature Tarot, which is another eco-friendly, um, ecologically designed tarot deck that I think is really beautiful. It has diversity in it, which I think is wonderful. I think it might be on the Make Playing Cards Eco Herbage paper, which I have had in a sampler of cardstocks and I think is really cool, so that is intriguing to me. The Magical Nature Tarot popped up in a video by Tom Benjamin and it kind of reminded me of its existence, so that's on the list. And Tree Spirit Tarot. Tree Spirit Tarot, I'm gonna keep a little eye out for Tree Spirit Tarot for maybe a secondhand copy. It is on Printer Studio. Due to a past negative experience, I will not order from Printer Studio. The book is on Amazon though, and the book looks really good. I may even just get the Tree Spirit Tarot book. A book about trees, like what druid wouldn't want that, right? So that's what's currently written on the list. Now, while we're here, I'm going to add something, which is that I have heard a rumor that Eric of the Inkwitch Tarot deck and Endless Oracle is going to be doing an Endless Tarot that goes with the Endless Oracle. So I'm writing that down on the assumption that that rumor is accurate. I'm sure someone who's on more social media than I am can tell me if that's true or not. Because if he does that, I will get it. I know that I will get it. So that's on the list. That's my list. So now you know what I've ordered, which is the 2 Oracle decks by 9 coins for my birthday that I'm very excited to receive. I'm also looking forward to Charlie Claire Burgess's Gay Marseille. I'm hoping that that might come in March as well. The last update said they were locking the addresses. So that one will be shipping at some point soon. So I'm definitely feeling a little bit of an influx. So that's fun. That's fun for a birthday, right? Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it for this month. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will see you again soon. Happy March. Bye.